Hi 6th graders, this is Mr. Bickford and this video lesson is Chapter 1, Lesson 1. Things you're going to need before you start. Of course you're going to need your comp book if this is how you're keeping Cornell notes. With this line right here, the important sections are questions and notes. Those are the most important parts. If you are choosing to keep your notes in a binder, you're going to need Cornell note page and multiplication table is going to be very handy for this lesson, and calculator. Okay, this lesson, the topic is, at the top of your Cornell note page, I want you to write Chapter 1 Lesson. Chapter 1 Lesson 1, and the topic is factors and multiples. The first thing I'm going to show you is the greatest common factor. How do you find the greatest common factor of two numbers? It is also abbreviated GCF. If you are trying to find the greatest common factor of two numbers, here is the example we're going to walk through. Find the GCF of 12 and 18. Here's your strategy. You are going to create factor rainbows for 12 and 18. That's what I'm going to walk you through right now. Start with 12. Your factor rainbows, it's a process to follow that lists all the factors for a number. If I'm finding all the factors of 12, I always start, doesn't matter what the number is, I always start with 1 and the number itself. So I would put a 1 here, and I'm going to make a rainbow over to 12. 1 times 12, I always start with 1 and whatever the number is. If this was 57, I'd put 1 and 57. If this was 180, I would put 180. That part's always the same. Step by step. Next thing, I'm going to count up from 1 and test, is this a factor or not? And you're going to use your calculator or your multiplication table. What's the next number greater than 1? 2. A lot of you know, where did I put my calculator? A lot of you know that 2 is a factor of 12, but here's how you test it using your calculator. I'm going to type in my calculator 12, whatever the number is, divided by the number you're trying, 2, and I want a whole number factor. I get 6. So 6 works. That's my next part of the rainbow. 2 over to 6. Systematic way, a process to follow that's going to list all your factors. I keep counting up from 2. What's the next number? 3. If you know 3 times 4 works, write it down. If you're not sure, you're using your calculator. 12 divided by 3, and you want a whole number. If you get a decimal, no good. Or use your multiplication table. 3, 4. If I was counting up, the next number would be 4, but I've already hit the other side of the rainbow. When that happens, you're done. These are all my factors of 12. Next, I'm going to find all my factors for 18. But the process is the same. Same step-by-step process. I'm going to start with 1 and 18. Then I count up. Is 2 a factor? Look at your multiplication table. Another shortcut is, can you chop it in half? That's 2. Can you make exactly half of 18? You can. 2 times 9. Count up. Next number is 3. If you're not sure, again, here is what you do. You type in 18 into your calculator, divided by 3. You want a whole number. I get 6, no decimal. 3 over to 6. I keep counting up to see if there's any more factors in the middle. Is 4 a factor? If you're not sure, 18 divided by 4, and my answer is 4.5. I get a decimal. Throw it out. No good. 5. Most kids can tell 5 is not going to work because 18 got to end in a 0 or a 5. 5 is out. 6, I've hit the other side. This is my list of factors for 12 and 18. We want the greatest common factor. So I look at my list. What is in this list? And it's in this list. We've got a 1 in both lists, a 2 in both lists. We have a 6 in both lists. We also have a 3 in both lists. I almost missed that one. What's the greatest factor out of all those? 6. 6 is my greatest common factor. So I would write greatest common factor is 6. Remember, if all I see is that, it's going to be 0 points. This is the work, the justification I want to see. So in your assignment, I want to see this. This is what your work should look like. Coming up with a list of factors for both numbers. If I had a third number, I would have a third rainbow, and I would look for the greatest common factor that's in all 3 rainbows. Okay, next. I'm going to go to a new, I think I can fit it on this. Next thing we're going to talk about are multiples. And I'm going to use an example. What are the multiples of 7? Multiples are the same thing as skip counting. If I skip count by 7s, or really what's happening is this. 0 times 7, 1 times 7, 2 times 7, 3 times 7, 4 times 7, ... Meaning that the multiples keep going forever. What these actual numbers are: 0, 7, 14, 21, 28, ... Multiples keep going. Another way to think about it is skip counting. Great resource for multiples. I look at my 7 row right here, it's skip counting. Another shortcut you might know, your calculator, a lot of calculators, you can make it skip count for you. Here's how. I type in my calculator a number that maybe it's not on my multiplication page, 16. It ends at 15. If I want my calculator to skip count by 16s for me, here's what I do. I type in 16, and I add another 16, and I hit equals. 32. I hit equals again. It's going to count by another 16. 48. I hit equals again. 64. I can just keep hitting equals, and this is going to be skip counting for me by 16s. Okay, example. The next kind of problem we're going to do is solving least common multiple, okay, which is abbreviated LCM. If I'm finding the least common multiple of 4, 5, and 10, I'm going to skip count by all 3 of those until I find a match, the first match that's in all lists. So I skip count and I write this down. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. There's a list of 4s. I don't know how far to go yet, I'm just going to go out a ways, and then I'm going to count by 5s. And if I don't find a match, I might have to come back to 4s and keep going, which I could. Okay, but I'm going to write down, count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I do notice now that I have a 20 in both lists, but I got to make sure that's in my next list of multiples as well, because I have another number. 10. Count by 10s. 10, 20, 30. And now I can see I've got the smallest or least number that is common in all the list of multiples is this one right here. I've got a 20, a 20, and a 20. It's the very first match. So the least common multiple for 4, 5, and 10 turns out to be 20. Again, least common multiple is 20. If all I see is this, no points. The work that you should be doing for finding and justifying least common multiple is this. I want to see this. This is what your work should look like. A list of multiples. For this assignment, you might not have enough space in your book to do that. You are always free to show your work on a separate piece of paper. Just make sure you don't lose it, because no work, no points. Okay, I'll see you in class and next time.